Again, tēnā koutou katoa, no mai haere mai. Welcome to this Concove Te Hura webinar, Research to Action, Work-Based Trainer Insights for Apprenticeships. This is the last webinar of the year and I feel like we've already done it 4 times. Today we're going to explore insights from the Work-Based Trainer project and discuss how Downer, New Zealand Certified Builders Association and Competens are using the recommendations of Jackie's project to enhance training. Called Katherine Hall, tōku inga, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our kōrero. For those of you who don't know us, Concove is the Construction and Infrastructure Centre of Vocational Excellence. We're focused on research projects that drive long-lasting change, aiming to solve issues in the construction and infrastructure sectors through vocational education. The Work-Based Trainer project is one of 3 key projects we've undertaken to explore the roles of the main educators in vocational education, the employer with apprentices and trainees, the classroom-based educator like that you would see in a polytech or a private training organisation, and the training advisor who of course works alongside the employer and apprentice or trainee. These projects offer essential insights into the support systems needed to drive meaningful structural change that benefit both learners and employers. As individual projects, the 3 provide some great insights and actions, and together they are even more powerful. Let's move forward and introduce the team with you today. I'm going to pass to Jackie.
Kia ora koutou katoa. So my name is Jackie Messam. I am the director of a business called Ripple Ed, and we're based in Tauranga, but we work across New Zealand. We are really interested in training at work. We design programs for NZQA-based programs. We do training ourselves. In fact, we have a program called Trainers at Work. And we're also very interested in research, what makes training at work better. And I'm going to hand over to Kevin.
Thank you, Jackie. My name's Kevin Whittle. I'm the Specialty Trades Manager for Competens. For those of you who don't know Competens, we're a work-based learning institution under Te Pukenga, and we specialise in apprenticeships, traineeships, and our main cohort of learners is in the engineering and fabrication field and sort of the associated fields around that as well.
Thanks, Kevin. Marcy.
Kia ora, I'm Marcy from New Zealand Certified Builders Association, where I lead the education program. That is a new initiative rolled out this year.
Hello, my name is Betty Mitrova. I'm the National Traffic Management Lead for Downer, New Zealand, and in my role I've got the privilege of leading our temporary traffic management professional services team, which includes a group of 4 workplace trainers.
Wonderful. Thanks, team. Okay, after a bit of a rocky start, we're going to get into the meat of the conversation now. Jackie, tell us a little bit more about the work-based trainer research.
Sure. Well, it all started when I started designing programs for industry. And at the time, I came from a campus-based background. And when designing, I realized that, say, around 70% of what happens in terms of learning on job happens with a work-based trainer and an apprentice. So I got really curious about that concept and did some digging and found out that around 45% of all apprenticeships in New Zealand are from the construction and infrastructure industries. And not so great was that around 50% of all apprenticeships in New Zealand, not just construction and infrastructure, those apprentices didn't complete over a 5-year period. So I think one of the apprentices that I interviewed said, you know, some of them might have the technical skills, but they just don't know how to train you. So that's how I got into a Concove research project.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. Jackie, can you tell us a little bit more about who's engaged in work-based training and then what motivates people to train on the job?
Sure. What I didn't say before was that one of the reasons why apprentices don't complete is, and one of the most important reasons, is the quality of the training that happens and also the workplace environment. So because of that, I decided to really want to find out what the voices of those who were actually doing the training were saying. And so when I did that research, I found out that there wasn't just one person doing the training. There were lots of different people. And unfortunately, a number of people mentioned somebody who was uninformed about the training part. They didn't actually realise they were supposed to be training anyone at all. Then you have the buddy, so someone who is perhaps doing an apprenticeship themselves about 2 or 3 years ahead, that they were supporting those apprentices with the questions and answers. The recent graduate was someone who'd recently been qualified. They knew quite a lot about the qualification, the unit standards, and the evidence required. And then you have what we all probably expect to be the main person who does the training, which was the technical expert, the tradesperson. But they may know how to do the technical bit really well, but they don't necessarily know how to train anyone. The chosen one is a bit of an unusual person, but that person is usually hired for a specific role in the business to support with training. But generally with assessment or bookwork and pastoral care. You've got the supervisor. This person was mentioned regularly. They may know that they have someone that they're training, but again, like the technical expert, they may not know how to do the training part. Mm-hmm. And then finally, in many workplaces, it might not be anyone in a technical space at all. So it could be a learning and development team member. And in one business, that person was linked in with the technical team to be able to support trainees in the morning or afternoon with their learning.
Yeah. And what motivates people to train on the job?
Yeah, I remember this quote from one of the trainers who said, it's so rewarding to see them do well. Like I can see the difference between last month and this month. And, you know, they increase in confidence and I can see excitement in them. And I think that's what typifies people who are training at work. But what's quite interesting in that those in strategic roles tended to think that the people that chose to train were people that wanted to just get off the tools and give back to industry. But actually, as that quote I said in before reflects, most of the time people chose to train because they felt that it was rewarding, that they could see apprentices grow over time, and they like to see happy people at work. And trainees, when I talked to them as well, they said the same thing. They noticed that effective trainers were those who really were engaged in their learning.
That's great. Jackie, did you have a look at what an ineffective trainer might look like? Was that part of your work?
I didn't really want to focus on that, to be honest, too much, but it was a question that I asked. And some of the things that came up was that ineffective trainers could be domineering or impatient, a bit negative, hot-headed. And in fact, one trainer said to me, if I were hiring a trainer, I'd look for someone with plenty of patience. They could take a step back, give the trainee a chance, and explain again.
Yeah, great. Thanks very much. So we're going to bring in our panellists now. Betty, we're going to throw to you first. So can you tell us how Jackie's findings resonates with what you're doing at Downer?
Yeah, sure. So at Downer as an organisation, I suppose, we are really, really committed to delivering high quality, practical training that prepares our people for the real world. Ironically, in the temporary traffic management space, the nature of the training has never necessarily been that way. For a really long time, it was quite rigid and restricted to classroom style learning. So what we found is that what we were doing in the temporary traffic management space didn't necessarily align with our wider organisational objectives. So it was really interesting to see the research findings and how actually they just reconnected back to what we want to do as an organisation, and how important it is to re-emphasise that authentic training environment. So for us, it's given us a real opportunity to kind of step back and focus on hands-on learning, making sure it's fit for purpose and relevant and resonates with our wider workforce.
Yeah, brilliant. And Marcy, how about you? How do the findings link to your experiences?
So like Jackie said, there's all different types of trainers, and the ones that I have come across a lot are our accidental trainers, are our trainers that accidentally become a trainer or inherit that role without even knowing it. And they don't know it until quite a fair way down that track. at which time what has been learned.
It's almost too late.
It's almost too late.
Yeah.
So yeah, while they're really they've got the skills and they've got the technical knowledge and they've got that real specialist background, they don't necessarily have what it takes to be an actual trainer. That emotional and relational stuff that's super important as well.
Yeah. And Kevin, jump on in.
Well, the first thing I want to acknowledge is that although this research was done in the construction and infrastructure space, it applies directly into what we experience in the engineering and fabrication space as well. And especially, we know as an organisation that to get good outcomes for learners, we need employers to be really engaged. And the research shows us that actually it's the trainer we need to be really engaged, which is a separate person to the employer.
Yeah.
So it actually invites us to really have a look at where we need to be focused within the organisation to support what actually happens next in getting those good outcomes and that good retention rate especially for us, the focus has been first year apprentices.
And it's not just the employer, is it?
It's not just the employer.
Lots of different people.
And that should come through in some of the assessments that are done. We see people signing off assessments that we've never met because they're in a different role within the organisation.
I should just say, for those of you who are having some technical difficulties, we will make sure that we capture these sound bites in a recording so that we can share them with you after. But do stick with us for the live stream if you can. And if you've got any questions that you want answered, please do remember to pop them in the chat. We will get to them at the end of the webinar. In the research, Jackie, you identified 15 skills of effective work-based trainers. Do you want to talk us through that?
Sure. Okay. So 15 skills, I think seems not very many, but I think that, it depends on your outlook. But the reason why that happened was because one of the people I spoke to was a learning and development manager at a business and said, what would be really great is at the end of the research that you had a framework that described the key skills of people who are training at work. So bearing in mind I was in the construction and infrastructure industry, I've used that analogy of a wall for the framework. So if you think about a retaining wall, retaining apprentices, as Kevin has said, well, the wall doesn't. The wall provides protection and support for the apprentices to retain them. That kind of is similar to sort of a construction type site when you have a construction retaining wall. So with a wall, you've got posts and bricks, and you can see in this slide you've got 5 posts which represent the 5 themes from the research, and then 15 bricks which are the different skills of people who train at work. So we're just going to have a little look at one of those posts. So if you look to the left, there is a post there that says trainer readiness, and this was if you can see the bricks at the bottom are all quite technical focused, that they needed to have technical skills in order to be a trainer at work, which makes sense. But the further you go up the wall, you'll notice that they are much more human skills or people skills focused. So the next one is emotional competence, having that patience and being able to be self-motivated. And the final one is the ability to be able to network within the business and get along with other people there, but also with the education provider, with their industry body. So it is an important readiness stage for trainers.
Okay, so Marcy, we're going to come to you. How are you using the framework to support New Zealand certified builders?
So probably a little bit different to everybody else. I'm actually using it to stand up our Coach the Crew program. So our Coach the Crew program is a train the trainer type course that we've developed. And what I do with the framework, as the research has come over the past year, I've used that to help. I've used the bricks to help me focus on reviewing my program and making changes. It also is highlighted, as you talked about, the bricks, the readiness bricks. The readiness pole seems to be the one that's, everybody needs to know when they need to learn about when they're ready. The other one is feedback. Spend a lot of time on feedback, which is one of the other posts in there. So we use it probably a little bit different to others, but it's a fantastic framework.
It's good to hear.
Can I just jump in there? That we've run some employer workshops, and the when that framework has come up as a slide, employers have actually jumped on it straight away because they can see that it's a very concise and very powerful summary of what's actually needed for someone to be a really good trainer and for really good training to happen in their organisation. So it's kind of really in their face when they see that slide. It's really good.
It's really good to have those focus blocks that you can go back and actually, almost moderate your work. Moderate. I look at my program and I think, okay, have I covered all? Have I covered this? Have I covered that? Have I done too much?
Yeah. That's great. Thanks, team. Betty, we're coming back to you now. What value does Downer see in recognising and developing work-based trainers, and how does it benefit your organisation?
Yeah, so for us, the work-based trainers are extremely important. They are the backbone to on-job learning for us. And it's a lot of the time that connection from what we do in the field, what the expectations are, and how to really get the best out of our people. It bridges that gap between theory and practice. So it's a really, really critical thing for us. So there's lots of value around enhancing the skills and knowledge and the techniques of our workplace trainers, because ultimately we utilize these people to get the best out of our workforce. And ultimately that not only enhances the quality of the training outputs that we're delivering, but in the end as well, our field-based outputs as well.
Great, thanks Betty. So Jackie, we're going to come back to you. You ran a little survey around possible trainer solutions.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Okay, so I did ask people what did they think was going to help them develop the skills to be an effective work-based trainer. So they came up with a list of different things, and then I did a further survey to find out, which would be more popular than others. And you can see that a lot of it involves talking to each other or talking to another more experienced trainer coach, talking to apprentices. They were very high, as was experimenting with different approaches. So they might learn something and then apply it in the workplace. They also talked about attending workshops and completing a qualification, which were a little bit lower, but I think that they provide the opportunity for the networks that you see coming up in that trainer readiness post and get to talk to another. I definitely saw that at Downer when I was working with your team, Betty, but also in your employer workshops, that opportunity to talk. So I think that the others will be able to share some findings around that relate.
I'd just like to comment on that slide because while attending workshops is quite low on your list, actually attending the workshop ticks off a few of the other things like networking with other trainers, talking to other trainers, really sharing those experiences. So we sort of found that the workshops we ran with you, the employer workshops, that actually overall the workshop was actually a really positive thing. And delivered some really good outcomes. So I think there's swings and roundabouts with it. Depends a bit on the content and how the workshop is run, I think.
Yeah, but it highlights the importance of employer networks to help support
Agreed.
Being in the same boat all together. Yeah. Okay, so Marcy, Betty and Kevin, can you tell us a little bit about how Downer, New Zealand Certified Builders and Competens are applying the research findings in practice? Kevin, we're going to throw to you first, I think.
Cool. So we've engaged Jackie to run a couple of workshops for employers. The two we've run so far have been very, very successful. So we get our training advisors heavily involved in these workshops. We actually ran a workshop just for the training advisors.
And that was fantastic.
Before we ran the employer workshops. Yeah, it was a great day. So we get the training advisors to invite their employers along, and then we put the employers at a table with their training advisor, and we work through some of the results of the report with Jackie. The outcomes of that have been quite fantastic in terms of the networking that happens, the conversations that happens, and often you'll have employers that are actually competitors sitting there comparing notes about how to improve their training, excuse me, about what works really well for one, what another might be able to improve on. So that networking is really happening. But the other thing that we're really seeing is the actual appetite from employers for support with how can we train better. And I think that's kind of the takeaway for us. So that's inviting us to think about what we might do next, really.
Great. Marcy, how about you?
So as I talked about earlier, we've designed the Coach the Crew course for our members. It kind of came as a need when we realised that, well, we already know 4098 is a fun one. It's 4098 and it needs some work. and often people are sold that if you want to become a trainer, you need 4098.
Yes,
And often when I was training 4098, the people in the room weren't necessarily, it wasn't fit for what their needs were. And then there's other unit standards out there, workplace trainer, train the trainer type things. But what I found that they were lacking was that relational stuff, the emotional stuff that Jackie talks about in her wall, on her framework, sorry. So how we apply Jackie's research is, as I mentioned before, to continue to stand up that program, but also, just thinking in our conversations, 2025 is a whole new year of focus for us, and I have different needs for that framework to work on in our apprentice space. So I'm really excited to, and it's just kind of dawned on me now that I'll be able to pull that over. So yeah,
I love it when that happens.
I know,
yeah.
I know.
And Betty, how about you and Downer? How are you using the research findings?
Yeah, for us it's been a bit of a multi-dimensional journey, I'd say. We've utilised the findings from two different aspects. So one is around, as a collective team of trainers, how can we be more consistent? How can we utilise the findings to make sure that our collective approach is effective? Hence why we brought you in, Jackie. And that was quite a powerful experience. And as you said, Kevin, it ticked a few things off the box. But through our performance development plan process, which we run at Downer every quarter, it's allowed us to utilise the framework to better set objectives for our trainers as individuals. Because in this particular sense, not only are they trainers, but they themselves are learners. So what we've identified is actually it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all approach here. What works from a trainer development solution for one of our trainers as a learner is not the same as what it does for his or her peer, also as a learner. So for some, we've found that they really benefit from one-on-one type of training, whether it be with another industry peer, whether it be with some individual professional development. We've got one who's really technical and wants to do more tertiary style education, and then the others are just really keen to engage and learn on the job, much like how they like to train on the job. So it's it's been quite an interesting journey for us.
I also found it quite interesting when I was with you and the group that a couple of them chose, say, feedback as something that they really wanted to work on, but someone else was actually quite good at that. They felt that they had the skills or the resources. So there's that talking together, which has come through in the research too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So we had some time put aside for some Q&A, but I think we have been having some technical difficulties as the time has gone on, and we might have lost a few people. What I would like to just quickly ask the team while I have them is a challenge that Concove has over the next 12 months is to really see our work embedded into the sector. So we had funded Jackie's project, which was really exciting, and this has led to these other conversations. Do you have any insights or thoughts for me and the team about how to best embed some of our insights in our work back into the areas that you represent, the employer, the industry training organisation that's supporting training, and certified builders in terms of your industry and your industry association? What can we do for you?
One of the things we are doing is when we do the employer workshops, and we have 2 more cohorts we're hoping to roll out Q1 next year if you're available, Jackie.
Yes.
Is we're actually supplying the report to the employers, so the link is there, so they actually have access to that report.
Right, yeah.
And in many ways, what is pulled out and presented at the workshops, kind of, we're hoping employers will take that away and embed it in what they're doing for their training as well. So that's one aspect that we're putting into practical action, which I think is what helps embed things into, especially into the kind of industries we work with. That anything practical that gets put into place, I think, is what works in the long term.
Yeah, brilliant.
As a temporary traffic management sector, Concove's also done quite a bit for us as well. you funded a research project around the priority learner groups within temporary traffic management, and it's actually it's been such an important piece of work for us, much like how this piece of work, Jackie, will help to influence the training components. What our research project did was it really helped form the foundation of our credentials framework, something that, like a lens that the TTM sector has never necessarily had before. It's always been very technical focused, so to have that learner lens has been fantastic, and to see more research projects like this come out for the wider construction and infrastructure sector is actually really, really powerful. So keep funding these awesome projects.
Thanks. Definitely. I think for us, 2025 is we're starting to look at the apprentice coming out the other end of their training, and where are we going to go? What are the pathways from there? So, like Betty said, all of this research that's really current, it's relevant, it's here right on our back doorstep, is going to be crucial to help us build those programs in the association to ensure that we're kind of making sure our learners from school right the way through to owning their own business, business ownership type thing, that we've got some really good research to land our programs on.
Brilliant.
So keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks for the answering the curveball question. Really love that. Okay, team. Anything else before we wrap up that you'd like to add?
Jackie, you had some resources and things, I think, didn't you, for the...
Yeah, a couple of things, I suppose, for me is that I think as an organisation you have to understand your why for training. Is it for compliance, or is it to grow your team, or is it to be innovative in industry? And that will probably drive the type of need for training in the workplace, I think. There's that one. And I also sort of think there are a lot of resources available that aren't written by educators for educators. They are written in the context of those working in the trades or working in, say, sports. And I think perhaps a little bit more relevant to people working in a kind of more hands-on trades perspective. So, to be able to try and look outside the square for those kinds of podcasts or e-learning modules or posters or articles or whatever that are not necessarily quite just what you would expect from an education perspective.
Brilliant. What a great way to end. Thank you so much, Jackie, Kevin, Marcy and Betty, for being with us today, and thank you for supporting the work of Concove Te Hura and getting the word out there about turning research into action. Really appreciate your time. Ngā mihi mai oha, thank you very much for sticking with us, and we look forward to answering your questions in the future when we get this recording back out to you. Thanks very much.